Hello and welcome to today's white to play and win video, and we see a moment where black has greedily captured the pawn on h3. Now, of course, if we were to trade the rooks off with either rook takes h3 or king d2 or d3, this would then of course mean that the rooks would trade off and black would be left with a lovely passed pawn, which is very antagonistic to said knight, and not least because this bishop of course is much faster than the knight. For that reason, king d3, rook takes h3, etc. are all safe moves, but they will ultimately lose because of this pawn. If we had nothing else, we'd have to try it, and black would have the luxury of converting a passed h-pawn, but we don't want that, we want more. And checking our checks and captures really can be a lifeline, a compass, so to speak, of guiding us towards potential resources that wouldn't otherwise be seen. And of course, well, first things first, we cannot take with the rook on e6 because we're pinned. They are pinned as well, however, and that is the key to the answer. We only have two other checks. There's knight c6 check, which would win a7, but it wouldn't change the needle on the position because ultimately this pawn would still be a winner in all the variations. However, there's one final check, and well done if you found the move. It is knight to f5, and this is what's called interference. It checks the king first of all, very important, and it interferes with the bishop's defense and communication to the rook on h3. And indeed, that is what has changed. The moment the rook takes on h3, the bishop is briefly tethered to the defense. Now, it looks like it checks out. The bishop can't be captured by the rook. If the knight captures the bishop, of course, this rook comes in with a check, and indeed would win the knight on e6. And if we take the rook, the bishop would capture, and we reach an aforementioned winning position with black. However, knight f5 really does show the power of checking all your checks. They can work out very, very profitably for you. And of course, this is a check. And so the bishop is blocked. It cannot capture because it is, of course, pinned. And so once the king moves, let's say to f6, we win the rook. We are now the exchange up, and the best part is we are going to win h6 one way or the other. Let's say bishop takes knight, and then the rook will take this pawn, and white is firmly in the driver's seat. There is a brief chance of a fortress if this king were to reach over here and this bishop over here, but in any case that's very, very unlikely. They're quite far away, and this rook, with best play, would very likely be winning some pawns. Not least because we are checking. Let's look at that one more time. The rook taking on h3 briefly means that this rook is pinned, and so rook takes e6 is not possible, and indeed knight takes e6 would fall down to rook takes e3, check. However, knight to f5, checking all your checks, stops that from working. The bishop is pinned, it cannot move, and knight to f5 interferes with the bishop's communication to the rook. And so once the king moves, the rook will take the rook, and white is an exchange up, and indeed winning the wing pawn, stopping any potential issues, and so would be in a very, very pleasant position. All thanks to checking your checks with knight to f5. And that's how you can win, by checking your checks. Hope you enjoyed that. Stay tuned for more. Cheers!